Since the 2016 referendum outcome, Brexit has always been a difficult issue in the United Kingdom. This is, to be honest, expected, given that the votes nearly split the country in half. However, in recent years, an increasing number of Britons have become unsatisfied with the way Brexit has progressed, and recent polling indicates that a large majority believe the UK was wrong to leave the EU in the first place. So in this video, we'll look at why public opinion has shifted against Brexit, what this implies for British politics, and whether the UK will ever rejoin the EU. So, before we get into why public opinion is soured, just have a peek at the polls. YouGov has conducted polls in the UK every couple of weeks since the referendum outcome in 2016. In retrospect, you believe Britain made the correct decision to exit the EU. If we remove Don't Know, who typically account for roughly 12% of the population, Brits were first pleased with Brexit. Until early October 2017, roughly 45% of respondents answered correctly, while just 43% answered incorrectly. However, the tables were turned in late 2017 when Theresa May failed to secure a majority in the June election, resulting in months of legislative upheaval as May attempted and failed to push her Brexit plan through Parliament. By mid-2018, over 46% of Britons had answered incorrectly, while only 42% had answered correctly. By the time May resigned in July 2019, 48% agreed she was incorrect, while just 41% thought she was right. After the UK really left on January 31st, 2020, there was a brief spike for right. However, by July 2020, the figures had returned to their 2019 baseline, with 48% incorrect and 41% correct. As the end of the transition period approached in late 2020, and the public understood that, despite Johnson's promise to get Brexit done, there was still a slew of issues to be worked out, things deteriorated even worse. By December, nearly half of people thought Brexit was a mistake, and only 39% thought it was the right decision.
It didn't even have a plan. It never had a plan.
There was another brief spike for right in March 2021, when the UK launched its covered vaccination program ahead of the rest of the EU. Brexit supporters argued it was only possible because the UK was not a member of the European Medicines Agency. Unfortunately for Brexit supporters, Johnson's personal approval ratings plummeted, while UK-EU disagreements on issues such as fishery and Northern Ireland persisted. The percentage of people who felt Brexit was a good idea fell precipitously, and by the end of 2021, 49% of people believed it was a mistake, 10 points more than the 39% who still thought it was a good idea. This was the case for the next 6 months or so. However, the gap began to widen again in May of this year. On May 25th, YouGov gave incorrect a 12-point advantage, with 49% saying Brexit was wrong and 37% saying it was right. It was a 14-point lead a month later in late June. It was 16 points in late July, and according to the most current poll from October 21st, it's now 20 points with 54% of people believing Britain was wrong to leave the EU, 34% saying it was the right option, and the remaining 12% saying they don't know. In any case, you get the idea. Brexit is becoming increasingly unpopular, with a clear majority of people believing it was a mistake. So, what's the source of this buyer's remorse? It's because the benefits that Brexiters predicted Brexit would bring haven't materialized, as well as because the Brexiters haven't bathed themselves in glory. Let us begin with the so-called Brexit advantages. During the Brexit campaign, Brexit supporters said that it would be good for the economy, and that critics were part of Project Fear. While Brexit supporters were correct in that the British economy did not collapse on the day of the vote outcome. In the 6 years since it has become increasingly evident that the UK economy is in poor health, to be fair, this isn't entirely due to Brexit. Some of the UK's fundamental economic troubles predate Brexit, and the present inflationary crisis is primarily attributable to global forces, but some of it is caused by domestic factors as well. Economists agree that Brexit has increased inflation by 2 to 3%, owing to disruptions in EU imports, a drop in the value of the pound, and a reduction in UK exports. Overall, the basic assumption that Brexit will increase the UK's wealth by increasing trade with non-EU countries becomes increasingly improbable. Similarly, Boris Johnson's argument that he can get Brexit done appears to be deceptive. While Johnson did get a Brexit deal through, the UK is still fighting with the EU over the Northern Ireland Protocol, and the various grace periods on agri-food controls that were supposed to end in 2021 have been extended indefinitely by the UK government, prompting the EU to issue a legal response. Brexit has clearly not been completed. It also has something to do with the Brexit supporters themselves. Brexiter Boris Johnson resigned following a never-ending string of scandals, only to be replaced by two more Brexiters, Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng. Their mini-budget soon wrecked the UK economy, prompting both of them to quit only a few weeks later. Anyway, you get the impression that the Brexiteers haven't done themselves proud. As a result, it's not unexpected that pro-Brexit sentiment is dwindling. This brings us to the conclusion of this video. Does this imply that the UK may rejoin the EU? No, it does not. At least, not anytime soon. While polls indicate that more individuals want to rejoin than stay out. According to the most current polls, 57% want to rejoin while only 43% want to stay out. Neither the Conservatives nor the Labour Party would return. Starmer, for his part, has effectively ruled out any return to the single market or customs union. However, and maybe more importantly, the EU would not do it. In case you haven't noticed, the EU is currently overburdened, and even if it could take the UK, why would it? There is a real possibility of another Brexit. That's all for now, folks. If you learned something, please make sure that you click the like button in order to make YouTube happy and for more insightful business and political case studies. Please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you at the next one.